for example, we put Magic Weekend on and there's a full round of fixtures everywhere else. If something's happening, everybody else be quiet and listen to that.
There's two Super League games at 3 o'clock on the day that the World Club Challenge is on at 7 o'clock.
Exactly. You're taking away a sap of your audience and you're diverting your attention. It's not just the actual people that are going to show up. It's the people that are going to be interested in, and it's going to be the story on the news and whatever. It's things like, for example, this morning, we should have all been looking at the article that had Robert Elston's views of what's going to change, what he's going to do differently, all the things that are going to happen. What were we actually worried about? All the other 10 different things that happened last week, and all the cock up with the Catalan and the bond, and all those things, because we're not planned. So I think having someone centrally, some central director of communications, doing an Alistair Campbell style grid of stories and really controlling and policing that would really help drive things, because you'd be making your own noise by making everybody else quiet at the right times, and you're effectively a conductor of the orchestra.
Yeah. So then
someone who's saying,
come out, like the piece that was done with Junior Sao that is on the Super League website, that'll get coverage, as well as the legitimate concerns we have to discuss about how the game's being run at the top level at the same time.
Yeah, it's things, and it's just making sure you've got a nice planned, coordinated thing. So you need someone who's in charge, and everybody needs to buy into it, and the owners and directors and the key players in the game, and say, look, basically what they say in this arena goes. Let's not have chairman statements go back and forth. Let's not release all our kit on the same day. We'll find there's enough space for everybody. There's enough area, but we just need to make sure we're doing things at the right time and in the right way. For example, we've done some brilliant stuff, but we need to keep doing that. If you think of the way Warrington announced some of their signings with the little WhatsApp group videos, that's really funny, good, social, easily shared content. Let's use that. Let's build on those and do that. And what we've got to think of is think of who our audience is, and think, how do we bring people in at the different levels? In marketing terms, you always talk about having a pyramid. So you have people who are aware of you and aware of your existence, then people who are informed and roughly keep up with going on, people who would say they'd like and are warm and are amenable, and then you have people who are loyal right at the top. And the idea being not just that you pull people up through, that's the old school theory, is that you try and move people from one category to another, but actually what you need to do is widen every category.
Yeah,
so if you get more people at the,
rather than a pyramid.
Yeah, if you get more people at the bottom, you're doing better. If you get more people at the middle, and that it's all about volume, and it's all about bringing new people in. You need to keep something for your hardcore, but your hardcore will be happy with whatever. So you kind of need to remember
is segmenting it out, and it's kind of. We've kept coming back to that, haven't we, with like the players managing their different social media channels, with the media opportunities being managed through the different audiences we could potentially reach. So that's really a neat sort of link to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nate, what about you? What's your... I mean, obviously, we've all watched you sit there talk for hours to yourself about this sort of stuff. So what's your one big takeaway idea that you think the game can push to get the profile of the players that notch higher?
I think the biggest thing they could take away, or to take away, period, is honestly to just it's the focus on the personalities. So in other words, find them. Like, just focus on whichever ones have the personalities to put themselves out there, and allow them to push them. Let them push the game. It's free advertising for the game. Let them do their thing, and don't hold them back. And that includes owners. Most of the owners in most sports and most places in the world come off as like old, just curmudgeons, but there's at least one out there that's a little bit slightly insane.
We've done that now. We don't need to go back to the owner.
Now, I love the idea of like you guys having a Mark Cuban that shows up and decides to just piss off everybody at all the team meetings or all the big meetings. Like,
were you not around when Kukash owned?
I was going to say, if you never followed Dr. Car Crash.
Yeah, no, it was a car crash, but people watch car crashes. That's the thing. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I it's a matter of like let that spike, and then once it spikes, then push out the sport, then push this out, then like, oh, you thought that guy was crazy. Well, watch how crazy this game is this weekend. Like anything but to get it to the game, you're trying to draw them to the game, but whatever insanity gets them there. But I think it's letting those personalities out, letting them do their thing, letting them be huge. I don't know. That's big. This is completely switching the subject, but while I'm thinking about it, I wanted to say real quick, Tim, I enjoyed watching Harry play last year for Philadelphia this past season, so I'm super excited to see if there's any other Coventry players or anybody else that comes over. But that's a very random thing, but I don't know why it just hit me all of a sudden. Like our conversation all the way back almost a year ago now, probably 7-8 months ago. But yeah, so I enjoyed watching him play. But yeah,
that's something that's a story in itself, isn't it? That's a story we could build on.
Absolutely, those are stories.
That's a really good story that we just kind of let drift to an extent, and we sort of let it go. When that's something that you could make a big thing out of and keep hammering, and or you could even have a video diary. Why could he not have just talked to his phone for 2 minutes after a training session, stuck that up on YouTube somewhere? Everybody flings it out. And that's more spike. That's more interest.
Well, that's like I do those quick minutes, and I tell every player that ever messages me or I can find in the league, I'm like, look, if you ever want to do one of these quick minutes, just send one to me. I promise you, as long as you're not like insulting children or like slapping somebody, I'm gonna put it up. Like I'll put it out there. Like it's your quick minute. It's not. Like, I don't want to do one every day, 365 days a year. I want to do 4 a year and let the players do them. So that's the easiest thing.
Yeah. I mean, whilst we're sort of floating around other topics, then let's kind of wrap up this this show and move away from the sort of topic that we've been talking about, which was raising players' profile. And I'm going to come to each of you about one separate point each. So, Tim, I'm going to start with you, and I'm just going to ask for your quick views on the Challenge Cup debacle, effectively, the mess up. What did you make of it all? What's the way out?
Two things. One, why did it ever get even as far as Nosy Parker column, yet alone all over everywhere? This should be at best a rumour that was squashed, kept behind closed doors in a meeting, and nobody talked about it again. That's the sort of thing nobody needs to hear. There is no good ending to this. There are at least bad endings, but there is no good ending to something like this. I think the only way they have to do it is the RFL have to just back down and say, look, actually, we've make it up a bit. We've rerun the numbers. Actually, we don't need the bond. It's okay. We'll try something else to, just exit it quickly, sharply, move on, leave it behind, and release a load of other stuff that people to get angry about next week. I'm sure they can find something lurking around the cupboards.
I'm sure they can.
Just move on quickly and just bin it as quickly as you can, because for one, it's ridiculously short-sighted. Two, the actual, if you were to revenue in terms of revenue cost there, the Catalan winning the cup last year, just the whole new camp thing, and even just the announcement of it, all the media coverage you've got, if you were paying for that as advertising space, that's the amount you've paid has probably already offset the amount in potential value that you lost supposedly on the selling the cup. All it needs is them to sell it properly and have a proper marketing and promotion strategy of how to get those tickets sold at a suitable price point that get enough people in there and get enough money coming behind. Could they, for example, upsell slightly, so you could sit with a legend, have a tent outside where you could meet five legends of each club that's playing in the cup. You meet 5 of those, you get signed, perhaps get a special hat, cap or something, do that. There's
Well,
a thousand ways to do it.
This year, the final anyway, instead of doing it like discount deals, they're doing add-on deals. So pay the same amount for your ticket, but if you buy it now, you get this and this extra. So there are other ideas out there. They're working on them. It just, like you say, it seems to be that we never needed to get this nonsense. But what you pointed out there about it being short-sighted, I think that drives me to what I want to ask you about, Nate, a little bit, because that short-sightedness kind of feels like a hindrance to expansion. But you are over there in the States, so expansion of the game is kind of what you're looking for right now. So what do you think the next steps should be for expansion, Nate?
So the two things.
This is where you get to talk about your European Super League, by the way.
This is so. There's two things about expansion. Well, there's three things. One of them is the quick answer is try out the New York team. Like, what is the harm in trying the New York team? It is the largest media outlet in the world. Like, why would you not try it? So, but I could talk about that for hours, but that's one. The other one is, I think the American pipeline. I think we are sitting here. We are an untapped market that I think England as a whole, like the RFL Super League, the RFL teams, they are missing on a golden opportunity to come over here on athletes that are trained from a young age in fitness facilities. Like I would venture to say that my fitness facilities in high school and the schools in my region, I would be willing to say that finances are put in more than any team in Super League. I would be willing to say that there's more money put in every year at the high school level into training the athletes than
I worked in a summer camp in the States. Best part of 15 years ago. They had better facilities than a lot of professional rugby league clubs do.
100%. And
I was recently in the facilities that Wigan have in Orrell, and I was amazed by the quality of a lot of the stuff that they have there. But similarly, you hear from a lot of players that move on from clubs like Wigan to other clubs, even other big clubs, and they talk about what isn't there at some of the other clubs, and that backs up your point, I think.
Yeah, and I hate to say that, like I really do, because I love the sport, and so I want to see it get bigger. So I think you can. Like, there's so much there. So bringing American athletes over does so many things. I think, it's an untapped. I get it. We don't grow up playing the sport, so we're behind the power curve when it comes to the little nuances of the game. But we're trained. So from a fitness standpoint, from a conditioning standpoint, from an expectation standpoint, I guarantee you we're already there. It's just a matter of teaching us the version of the game, right?
Yeah, you won some games on that tour of Australia and New Zealand back in 1953. Back in
the 50s. That's right. The biggest thing, though, to me, I would love to see, and I know this is a long term, I think that Super League should not be Super League the way it is. I think that if the RFL, or like if the championship was the highest level it went to from a standpoint of like the local England-based league, I think that'd be fine. But a Super League needs to be a Super League in the sense of like add in Europe. And I think if you took some of the clubs, maybe like 6-7 clubs, and that's it from the England side, like from that Super League level, pull them up. Add Catalans, add Toulouse, put in a team underneath, look at what they do in basketball, or what they do in soccer with basketball, with Barcelona and those different ones. Add a Red Star Belgrade, add a Rugby League Barcelona, a Rugby League Galatasaray, a Rugby League Milan, and start that Super League. That would be pennies on the dollar for one of those major soccer clubs or football clubs, whatever you want to call it. But in my mind, that's what you got to have. So the diehards that are angry at the games, that are like, we shouldn't change anything, and they want to have warm beer and sit in the stands, the honest answer is they're going to sit in the stands and drink warm beer and be upset no matter what you do, right? Or they're going to be super excited no matter what you do.
Well, you don't merge. If you merge, then they're not going to come.
No, whatever. But like in my mind, like the Super League, put that Super League, put a Wigan, St. Helens, Leeds, Warrington, maybe Hull, Castleford, like a couple of clubs. Like, I'm not bagging on the other clubs. I'm just saying, like, the clubs that have like 10,000 or more fans, try to focus on those guys that come there and add them in with these other places to go. And I'm telling you, like, it's huge. Like, that's why, like, soccer's big in England, soccer's big in Spain, soccer's big in Italy, but it's all big. But like, UEFA is what makes it what it is. Like, that's what makes soccer as big as it is. Like, I think that English Premier League is the best soccer league in the entire world. But I would it's awesome. But
you just look at, for example, the size of the media center at the World Cup. it's it's football fields long because that's how many people want to pay attention to it.
Exactly. And you can have a team from Barcelona show up and people will watch Rugby League Barcelona. They'll watch Rugby League Milan. I'm just using that as generic names, but if Galatasaray shows up if Galatasaray showed up to play against Leeds, anybody from a Turkish heritage that could possibly show up would probably show up, right? Like they're going to be there. Anybody that's at least a Galatasaray fan or somebody like that, like they're going to show up and watch those games.
And I get what you say, and actually I think it's a nice closing point because it brings us back full circle, because I do think to be able to achieve that, to be able to get those big brands buying in, we need to offer them a platform, and that platform has to have star names on it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys.